And we found out about this guy, Tom, from somebody had seen him speak, and Thomas Dowd, and highly recommended him. And I asked him for his bio this morning, and he said, well, I want you to read this exact. I said, really? And he said, yes. So, and I read through it, and I agree with him. So I'm going to read this. Have you ever been stressed out? Let's pause so that you can sarcastically laugh and say, of course. Of course. Research consistently shows the people who care the most about what they do get stressed out the quickest and the most. Have you ever asked the question of how do you break out of the burnout cycle? How about wanting to stick your tongue out at someone who stressed you out? Not because there was a tongue depressor nearby, but because you needed the relief. The answer is yes, so let's do it. 1, 2, 3, go. Our speaker considers himself a recovering cynic. Why? Because he was constantly stressed out, defensive, and blaming others for many things he had control over. Now, he's a distinguished Toastmaster, a group of over 350,000 people worldwide looking to improve their communication and leadership skills, a member of the National Speakers Association, a more satisfied employee, and an overall happier person. He is here to remind us that our ability to spring back from a bad day and so much more is incredibly important to everyone here. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Tom Dowd, aka Transportation Tom, as he presents Resurrecting Resilience.
Now, he had mentioned Transportation Tom. I will not take you anywhere. It's Transformation Tom, but we'll be all right. Oh, just having my fun. My oldest daughter, Meg, plays field hockey at Ithaca College. Does anyone know what Ithaca's nickname or mascot is? It's the Bombers, which is great until the team walks through an airport. In October 2017, one of the field hockey games went into overtime. And in a very aggressive play, my daughter got a yellow card. If you don't know anything about field hockey, and after all these years I still don't, it means that the team plays without her, a person down, for 5 minutes. You can probably see where this is going. They lost the game. I'd like to have somebody, a volunteer, read the text exchange I had with her after the game. Can we run a mic out, please? Can I have a volunteer? Right over there.
Read the grade.
Just read everything. Right there.
Glad you thought so.
No, start over.
Your team was a better team today. You had a couple of real nice passes. Glad you think so. My entire team was so mad at me for getting the card that no one has said a word to me. Coach wouldn't even high-five me when she was high-fiving the entire team after the game.
This is a part of the program where you say, "Aww." The coach did start her in the next game. It was the last game of the season. My wife was at the game, my in-laws were at the game. I was at home taking care of the dog. I was trying to live stream the game up on Apple TV, and I was struggling, having a lot of technical difficulties. But I could see the live stats on an iPad, and I see 90 seconds into the game, there's a goal. And my daughter had the assist, and it made my day. 2 minutes later, there's another goal. This time it's my daughter, and it made my day even more. Isn't this a great story of resilience and redemption? Not yet. While I'm still struggling with Apple TV, I see that there's another goal. It's my daughter's second goal of the game. Finally, after 17 minutes, I get the game up on Apple TV, and I do not use this word lightly. Literally, 2 seconds later, there's another goal. It's my daughter's third goal of the game. It's Ithaca's first hat trick in several years. When I talk about resilience, I want you to remember this. We are surrounded by these moments. Actively look for them. We're going to start this session with a thinking and writing exercise. And as we go through today, you'll begin to understand the importance of thinking and writing and downtime and creativity on relieving stress. So there are some handouts on the table. I want you to come up with your own top 3 drivers for your own stress. And I will ask for volunteers to share. But these drivers can be work, can be home, can be the person next to you. But concentrate only on the drivers. While you do that, I'm going to play a little music. Anyone know the name of the song? Stressed Out. So concentrate only on the driver. Continue to add on if you need to. So now let's think about the solutions. What can we do to bounce back? It can be large, it can be small, but don't overthink it. It can be as simple as waking up 5 minutes earlier if you're constantly running late. It can be the tried and true count to 10. It can be call a friend. So go ahead and write down 3 solutions now. Continue to write down some other things if you need to. And that's the presentation. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to have a couple volunteers. Who wants to share one of your drivers and solutions? Just raise your hand and we'll have a mic run out to you. Share one driver and solution. I'm sorry, into the mic if you don't mind. Thank you.
Fitting in time to have fun. And the solution was just do it.
Nice, thank you. Another volunteer, please.
Working through new tasks, and I said, work through them and ask questions.
Nice. Thank you for participating. Can we have a volunteer up front?
My mother, she found out I was in the state. Now she wants all my time. So the compromise is, hey, I may not be able to do it all, but let's get together Sunday.
Okay. Nice. Thank you for sharing. I did this once, and somebody told me that the stress was driven by their company. They hated their company. They hated their boss. The irony is the company and the boss are the one who selected her to come. Her solution was to quit. You don't have to go that far. All right, so as we continue to go on through today, continue to add on to your own solutions onto the handout. Before the meeting, I had a chance to talk with some of you and ask what causes the health and safety community the most stress. And it turned into a top 10 list. Can I have the volunteers or the people who are voluntold because you're holding on to a numbered envelope come on up to the stage? And that's 1 through 10. We need all 10 folks to come up. We're going to stand in numerical order, and you're going to find this is going to be the hardest part of the entire presentation. We'll start with number 10 right here, and then we'll go down to 1. And when I call out your number, go ahead and read the statement that's inside. So number 10 over here. I told you this is going to be the hardest part of the entire presentation. All right, you can read it right into the microphone. Number 10.
And I have to be the one to erase yesterday's 367 days without an accident board and replace it with a 0.
Standing at the door, feeling like Oprah saying, you get a yellow safety vest and a helmet, you get a yellow safety vest and a helmet, and you get a yellow safety vest and a helmet.
Do we have number 8? Okay.
Apparently it stressed them out too much. When you hear the safety dance song and it stays in your head for days at a time, say, hey, earworms are a real safety issue.
Number 6.
Reading the billboard on the highway that says texting while driving kills. For more driving tips, text safety to 55555.
Number 5.
Coming to the epiphany that you went into this type of work because you actually did hear what your mom said when she asked, if everyone else jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Of course the answer is no. Someone might get hurt.
Number 4.
Hitting your head against the wall because people care less about spreading germs and more about what you call that thing on your arm on the other side of your elbow where we're supposed to sneeze.
Number 3.
When we all really wished the 5-second rule was real.
Number 2.
Wondering why we have to live through 5 seasons each year: spring, summer, fall, winter, and flu.
And number 1.
I'm scared that the safety and health regulations will get so complex that the only solution will be bubble wrap suits for everyone by the time we get to the 100th annual Maine and Safety Health Conference.
Have you ever had one of those days? Note, I do not endorse violence. Have you ever had a bad day or know someone going through a stressful situation? How you react to it sets the tone for your attitude, your mood, and in many cases, your actions. How do you shake it off? Cue Taylor Swift here. To get your head in the game, cue High School Musical here. If you have any teenagers or you are one, you know what I'm referencing. For others, I'll reference Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live, circa 1991. He wasn't too far off when he said in the mirror, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you." Why are we calling this Resurrecting Resilience? Have you ever heard someone say, I'm so stressed out? Or some even say, I have a high tolerance to stress. They're probably the same ones in college who walked around the party saying, I'm so drunk after one beer. Maybe not. But the concept of stress has been almost glorified until the negative consequences come into play, and we cross over the threshold of, dare I say, burnout. Resilience helps us to light up instead of burn out. It's time to light up. No animals were hurt in the making of this slide. But it is probably time to change our catchphrase. How about burn bright? That's better. Burnout is defined as a state of emotional or physical exhaustion caused by prolonged periods of stress and frustration. You're probably saying, no kidding. But my other definition source, Urban Dictionary, adds, it's a high school or college student who does nothing more than skip class and smoke weed. I wasn't like that in school. But my wife would like to say I was probably the guy who brought him to the principal's office. Don't tell her, but I was. Let's stick to the original definition. What do I know about resilience? I was a communication major in college and told for the next 18 years on my performance appraisals I couldn't communicate. Hopefully I can figure it out before this is over. Around the same time, my 28,000 person organization was swallowed up by a 285,000 person organization overnight. I was on a task force that hadn't started yet because I was on vacation. The task force was administrative and soon to be redundant. Did I tell you it was one of the largest banks in the country? Then the Great Recession started soon after, and the company announced it was eliminating 35,000 positions. I survived another 5 years doing more with less. I always knew when there was an employee satisfaction survey coming because there always seemed to be an uptick in pizza. The target on my back was too big on June 6, 2013, a day I affectionately called D-Day, or Displacement Day. I ironically had a speaking engagement later that night at a place called Jobs for Maine grads. I was fried, but free. When the company was being taken over, I had an incredible manager who taught me the value of networking. I walked out with my head held high and was newly invigorated. I simply had a new job. It was to find another one. I landed a better job in 59 days. I can see the organizers are getting a little nervous because I'm talking about job cuts. This is my story, not yours. But the lesson throughout is that I needed an attitude adjustment and to surround myself with supportive people to not only survive, but to thrive. Resilience helped me to burn bright. Today's keynote theme is to burn bright. We've all had singular events we remember most, but it's the little events we remember most that add up, that can hit us like a ton of bricks, or at least a water balloon. Take a deep breath. Scream out loud. Find a shoulder to cry on. Whether you're looking for a quick fix or a sustained strategy, our success is always greater when we resurrect resilience. We need to believe that our ability to stare stress down is a win for everyone, including ourselves. When we can bounce back, we can be more energetic, more engaged, and ultimately burn brighter. It takes a lot of energy to be stressed. It may lead us to questioning why we continue doing what we've been doing, in many cases for the love of helping others. Today is a reminder to forge ahead. I have a program dedicated to better understanding millennials. Do we have any millennials out there? That's what I thought. I make a comment that organizations need to actively teach resilience. As a hovering helicopter parent, we don't often fly in the eye of the hurricane. In many cases, we are the hurricane. But assuming it was in the best interest of our children, we did see our fair share of certificates of participation. As a father of 3 daughters, ages 17, 19, and 21, I sometimes think I deserve my own. Parents are only part of the root cause. The professional reality is that many young employees lack the ability to recover from setbacks or persist in the face of challenges. The fact that you're letting me do this is a great start and should heighten your awareness as symptoms come up. The point is to take a proactive role to learn about resilience. Squishy balls are nice, but they're not sustainable. It's time for our first activity. On the next slide, if you see a blue car, you're stressed. If you see a red car and an armadillo, you're doing just fine. Resilience. Your being here is a reminder that you deserve a pat on the back, a breather. It is not a badge of courage to constantly be stretched, stressed, and strained. When you go back to work next, it's not back to the daily grind. I want you to think strategically about what works best for you to reach your high standards while still riding the waves a little bit. Today we're going to focus on the following. Control what you can control. Vulnerabilities to stress. Simplified solutions. Strategic redirection. We're going to change your story and hopefully have a little bit of fun. Let's go to the first theme. Control what you can control. Sometimes it's dark out there. We don't know where we're going. We're anxious about what's coming down the pipe. Here is my then 10-year-old daughter getting her ears pierced. You will quickly see the stress turn into victory. That's what resilience is all about. But why are we vulnerable to stress? We might be burning the candle at both ends, but that is a little light on the path to burning brighter. All you have to do is ask poet Edna St. Vincent Millay when she wrote, "My candle is burning at both ends, it will not last the night. But my foes and my friends." It gives a lovely light. We can't do it alone. But we do need to look in the mirror first. You understand how important you are to your organization. Dr. Richard Carlson writes about looking for the extraordinary in the ordinary in the book Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. You might have come across variations of this in the past. I heard a story about two workers who were approached by a reporter. The reporter asked the first worker, "What are you doing?" His response was to complain that he was virtually a slave, an underpaid bricklayer who spent his days wasting his time placing bricks on top of one another. The reporter asked the second worker the same question. His response, however, was quite different. "I'm the luckiest person in the world," he said. "I get to be part of important and beautiful pieces of architecture. I help turn simple pieces of brick into exquisite masterpieces."
They sell it in Lowe's in a bucket there. Yeah.
They were both right. It's time for a test. It's important we put you under the most stress first so you can then release it. So get out your number 2 pencils. Are you ready for the first question? You ready? Briefly describe what hard water is. Anyone? Minerals, ice, or ice. Find X. Here it is. Name 6 animals which live in the Arctic. Anyone?
That's my one. I don't.
Just scream it out. Polar bears. Arctic fox. I'm sorry? How about 2 polar bears and 3, no 4 seals? And where was the Declaration of Independence signed? Everybody. At the... There we go. Oh, why are cats always so stressed out? As a stressee, I'm sure you know the common causes, including self-doubt, perfectionism, being a workaholic. We know that you're driven because of long hours, constant emergencies, workload, and so much more. Let's go back to the original passage from Dr. Richard Carlson. I found in my research that people who care the most are impacted the fastest and the hardest. Research has shown that burnout comes on quickly when people understand their purpose, their influence, their impact. To many, if not most people in this room, this sounds counterintuitive. How can I love my job but be so stressed out? We need to simplify solutions. We can pinpoint the factors that alleviate stress levels. Just like a flashlight, we can point the light right on the solution. Here are some recommendations. Support and encouragement. Actively seek out people who provide it. Work-life balance. Get creative if you have to. Invite your family to a picnic at work. Reduce your intake of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine. Please don't run out. We know the physical impacts transcend into your psyche and emotion. Only you know your limits. I'm not here to preach, but I am here to get you to think. Sleep. Force your habits. My family makes fun of me for going to bed early. I do it anyway. I almost went to bed during Super Bowl 51 with the Patriots down 28-3. I said, oh my God. Always seems to go over better here in New England. Write. Put your thoughts to paper. Keep a journal. Write an email to family, friends, yourself. Write every single day. It's therapeutic. I'm 6 books in and I love the cleansing feeling of putting my thoughts and emotions to paper. And relax. Take an active approach to relaxation. This might be yoga, exercise, sports, breathing exercises. Find a way to actively relax. It's time for a couple activities. And note, the FDA has not approved any of these activities, but they're fun. At least they are in my view. I want you to get into the habit of doing some of these on a regular basis. The first one is simple. It's called squeegee breath because it wipes your stress clean. Take a deep breath in. Hold for a 3 count. Exhale all the way out. Hold for a 3 count. It's important, even for the briefest moments, to stop everything. Now stop everything. And take a deep breath. Tomorrow I want you to set up a trigger point to help you to remember to do this. This might be touching a doorknob, taking a sip of water. Oh, you can go back to breathing normally now. All right, stand up if you can. How many of you like football? Do you know who Roger Goodell is? Last year, he relaxed the rules associated with touchdown dances. I want you to imagine scoring the winning touchdown of the Super Bowl. We're going to spend the next 5 seconds, doing our best touchdown dance, but before we do, there is one rule. Keep it clean. Ready? Go. Apparently we have some linemen that have never scored a touchdown before. You can go sit down. After that, we need a little strategic redirection. Stress darkens our road. Strategic redirection or deeper thinking help to point our headlights in the right direction. Misery loves company. All you have to do is check out social media. How many sad stories have you read on Facebook? Worst day ever. Sickness, ailments, cat videos. Okay, cat videos are kind of fun. An April 2017 study confirmed the more you use Facebook, the worse you feel. Just like Facebook, the more convinced you're stressed or you're having a bad day, the more likely it is to come true. Misery loves company. Doesn't mean don't keep up with your friends. It might mean not spending every waking hour on social media. But it's the same at work. Be present. Be there for your colleagues. But when the talk is persistently negative, learn to walk away so you're not sucked up into that vacuum. We can't do it alone. Surround yourself with a support system. I used to have a summer job at Phillips Crab House in Ocean City, Maryland. It was very stressful in that steam station. After work, a bunch of us would go across the street to the bar for an attitude adjustment. I highly recommend it. Not the bar, the attitude adjustment. When you're conscious of your attitude, it goes a long way in determining whether you simply need to stick out your tongue. Go ahead. Feels good, doesn't it? Or whether you need to seek professional help. Research has proven the stronger your support network, the better you are at coping with challenges, and the faster you are at recovering from them. You're not weak in seeking support. You're showing strength by knowing you can't do it alone. Choose optimism. Is the light at the end of the tunnel always a train? When my former boss was constantly driving me down early in my career, my wife used to always say, wait 3 months, one of you will be hired, fired, promoted, or demoted. Thank you? In the midst of a downward spiral, it's hard to think objectively. Part of the solution is productive action. I found a mentor. I became a mentor. I joined Toastmasters International. These are just some of the many actions I took to stop that downward negative spiral. In fact, I really do truly believe it was the beginnings of my growth and transformation. My former employer used to have a saying on the wall from Henry Ford. This isn't Apple TV anymore. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. My wife used to always counter with Bart Simpson, damned if you do, damned if you don't, so let's not ask. All right, this should be fun. This is a self-diagnosis exercise called Problem Solving 101. If you could stand up, please. I want you to touch something, not your neighbor. Go ahead. Touch something else. How many of you use your hands or fingers? Most always do. Our brain tells us there's only one solution to this problem because that's the way it's always been done. Now I want you to put your hands and fingers behind your back. Now I'd like you to touch something, and it's still not okay to touch your neighbor. Go ahead and touch something. Touch something else. What did you use? Foot? Knee? Shoulder? I did this once and somebody told me they used their tongue. I didn't. It's important, especially when you're stressed, to try to think objectively and creatively. When being a problem solver, we must break from the been there, done that mentality. When you break that chain, it may be just what you need to think differently, which is a stress relief. Resilience is figuring out new ways to do something when other ways aren't working. And as you saw, new thinking didn't take very long, did it? You are well on your way to burning bright. I want to share with you some therapy I wrote within 24 hours of a really bad speaking day. It relates to Toastmasters International and speech competitions, but I think you'll find your own connections here. It's called Change Your Story. One speech away from the World Championship of Public Speaking. One strong message about bullying. One major brain freeze. What would you do? My choices were to stare at the ceiling until the words appeared. They did. Or to reach into my jacket pocket for plan B. The note. Oh, the judges won't like this. But I was out of options after my 5-second pregnant pause. It felt more like 9 months. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story of resilience. It better not end here. Maybe we can change our story. Saying I was disappointed is an understatement. I will forever be remembered as a guy who forgot his word. I vowed never to speak again, yet here I am. Call it perspective. The next day I was talking with someone who works for the Red Cross Disaster Relief and listened intently to stories of true survival and real resilience. My catastrophe was like complaining that the salmon dinner served the night before was too dry. It was! But that's not the point. It was time to change my story. But how do you change your story? The saying is when you fall off your horse, you get right back on. My daughter Erin may not appreciate that reference since I made her get back on her bike while she was still bleeding. Sorry, Erin. It's better than when we played Trustful. And you lost. I recovered the only way I know how. I wrote. I had recently signed a contract for a keynote on resilience. The introduction started writing itself and I couldn't stop. It felt therapeutic. I felt alive. I felt like Forrest Gump with his run. I kept writing and writing till I didn't want to write no more. Part of learning to change your story is looking at the situation from 30,000 feet. Finished in third place with an imperfect speech. Yes, there were more than 3 contestants. The audience reacted positively to the message, and I didn't die. Forgetting some words on stage was never going to be life-threatening, although my heart did stop for a moment. At least my brain did. But I won't be defined by these notes. I hope I won't need them. Standing on this stage today is changing my story. Sometimes our disaster is just a bad day. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes the need to change our story is better than the alternative. That's where Dan comes in. After I gave a speech on my struggles with alcohol, a friend approached me to speak to his son, Dan. A few weeks later, the phone rang. Hey, Dan, your dad's a good guy. Said you might call. What do you mean you don't care if you wake up in the morning? Apparently, Dan doesn't mince words. Said he had just moved to Colorado and felt so alone. He shared stories of being kicked out of countless family and friends' homes and too many failed attempts to sober up. He simply said, "You can't help me." But he did dial my number. How do you change a story while it's still being written? Alcoholics Anonymous will tell you one day at a time. I'm only one person in this sea of support, but Dan needed to hear my voice that night. I would never take credit for saving Dan's life, but I will give Dan credit for trying to save his own. Dan's trying to lengthen his story. I didn't say it was easy. On his way back from Colorado, he had a couple car accidents and a drunk driving arrest. He moved to Kentucky where a compassionate friend convinced Dan to go to rehab. He's been on the road to recovery with life in a sober house, an AA sponsor, and a new job. Dan doesn't want to be defined by alcohol. He once sent me a text after a relapse. This life and I don't jive. But I don't want to die. Dan is changing his story. Will Dan fall again? Maybe. Will he get back up in the hopes of changing his story? His life depends on it. Dan has taught me that we need to keep trying to change our story no matter how many times we fall. Because resilience isn't there in the ceiling. It's here. Here. Sometimes here. And here. That's resilience. So is Dan's true belief that every day he wakes up is another page of his recovery story. Perspective is powerful. It motivates us to get past our self-pity, to support others, and to find the courage to stand on our own stage. But perspective is nothing without resilience. Resilience is you reaching past the ceiling, screaming to the world, keep the notes. We're writing a new story. Change your story means a lot to me. Writing it within hours of the event was raw emotion, but it does summarize a lot of what we've talked about today. Control what you can control. Finding your own vulnerability. Taking action. Strategic redirection. Today is about becoming consciously conscious of your well-being, meaning make it a habit to de-stress. You can shine, you can burn bright, you deserve it. Stress isn't that badge of honor we've come to know. But where we have come from today is the dark. To a flicker, to a flashlight, to headlights, and now the sun. And the sun is always there, even in the clouds, burning bright. Thank you.